Ah, the French champagne.
So let's move into our third round now. Sounds good? That's me hitting the bells, by the way, for the effect. This is interesting because I'll say right away, the score for the prequels is great. The score is, I guess. Mm-hmm. The Duel of Fates, that's what it's called, right?
Phenomenal.
Like,
even when it's
epic.
Just played over Anakin talking to a Jawa. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, someone mentioned something with Duel of the Fates about how I think it was Dave Filoni, actually, the guy who heads up Mandalorian and the Clone Wars. His professional job is just like fixing Star Wars movie failures by making TV shows that like correct all the mistakes. But he said that the Duel of the Fates track in Episode 1, Phantom Menace, is not about Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan's fate. It's about like Anakin's fate, and if Qui-Gon had lived and mentored Anakin, then like he wouldn't have become Darth Vader and do. And that Duel of the Fates, like throughout the prequels, is always about Anakin, even in Episode 1, which I don't know if I really bought that to be honest, but I thought it was an interesting take.
I love the Padme Anakin theme. I think the music does most of the legwork in getting us to accept their relationship.
They rolled in the grass, though.
They did roll after he got thrown.
Oh my god! How did we not talk about that?
A giant tick.
Yeah, a giant tick.
I think it's a giant tick.
Giant tick cow.
Yeah.
Yeah, they rolled in the sand. They had a picnic. They were in a space gondola. They're in love. Okay, shut up.
I love the moment when they kiss and she's like, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that," and he's so obvious. He's like, okay.
I know we're dipping back to story, but just Anakin Padme stuff. I really meant to mention this. When he confesses that he just slaughters a village of, and her reaction is, to be angry. To be angry is human, or like to feel anger is human. Yeah. It's like, you got to get the fuck out of there, Padme. Like, Anakin's this crypto fascist who just fucking murdered all these people, and it's okay. No, everyone has a bad day.
The exact line was, "They were animals, and I slaughtered them like animals." Yeah. And she goes, "Oh, honey."
Oh, it's so bad.
And not just the men, the women, the children.
Oh.
There should have been some more questions if she was like, so like 2 or 3, we're talking like 3 people, we're talking like 24.
We're talking like a village. You
small village.
You murdered a village. Okay. All right.
I'm just gonna.
All right.
3PO. 3PO. Help me.
Had me taking off in the background. Yeah. That's how it should go.
He's like recording a help message for R2D2. They rhyme. You see?
Oh, they rhyme.
There it is. They rhyme.
The ship sounds are phenomenal in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Every ship sounds cool. The blaster sounds all fucking cool.
Yeah.
Love them.
The pews and the pews
and the wobs.
Yep.
The Foley work and like the sound effect library for Star Wars is it's really top notch.
The aliens and the animals and stuff like that, all interesting sounds. They feel right. Like they look like they were designed for what they look like, for sure.
Yeah. It seems like whoever he passed that task on to be like, here's my incoherent notes about the races that we have to show. You realize them for me. Whoever had that job nailed it. Yeah.
Surrounded by brilliant. That's the thing. George Lucas was surrounded by a lot of really talented artists.
Yep.
Didn't know what to do with them. I'll say this though, even the positive things I said about like the designs of stuff, because we didn't really touch on this, and I kind of want to. And this happens a lot at this point in the podcast. I think the visual of, we mentioned it a little bit, the ear slug and those desert bugs, all of that stuff was truly stomach turning, and like a great. I don't even know how they did all of it. They all made little puppets. I'm guessing it was all just puppets and stuff.
I think they just made like clay ear models.
But then they.
We're talking about the Wrath of Khan, right?
Yeah. But like the puppets of the bugs in the dirt was really cool.
Oh yeah, those would have been just puppets, I think. Yeah, just like
yeah. It's just a hand popped up going like, but it is really cool. Yeah,
it is really cool, and like pulling the little slugs like out of the like the cracks in its back is really gross idea. And then, but I know they made a little like wax ear, but then, so I guess it was on like a fishing wire and they pulled
the ketchup, they squirted out as it gets pulled, as it comes out of his ear later.
But whatever they did, it was full of ingenuity and it worked so well.
But on that note, I was unclear as to the logic of how those ear larvae operate.
Oh my God. Yeah,
there is none. It is a really like see-through plot device that is that they needed in order for Chekhov to do the things that he did.
Right.
The one dude tries to resist them in that moment, and so he can't. So he shoots himself, and then literally like the next moment, Chekhov is just like,
no.
And like, like no, and like
poops it out,
and like squeezes it out, and they're like, oh, it's like the other dude had to kill himself.
Yeah,
I was wondering about that, if we see Chekhov like after that moment. And I was wondering, I don't know if we do. Like, did Chekhov just die? Like, did he just his brains mush the worm? And he obviously didn't. But that was how I reconciled it. Was like, nah, he's just dead.
I hated it too when Chekhov came back into the bridge, and they looked at him, and he was kind of gave like a physical thumbs up, as it were, and then like a nod, and then you were like, yeah, he's back. It's like, didn't you just facilitate like the massacre of a space station? Aren't you like really messed up right now that you were like aware of, but not able to stop? Like, I would be out of it for a while. Just want you to know. I'd be like, this one's on you. I lie down. But I wondered if the guy shooting himself was like an homage to the Red Coat, because when they went on the planet, he had a red spacesuit and Chekhov had a yellow spacesuit, and then he ended up shooting himself. So I wondered if that was like an homage.
They did have
Red Coat.
Lieutenant Preston or something, Mr. Preston, who is the only one at the beginning who steps out of line to introduce himself, and at that moment you're like, you're going down, Preston. Sorry. And then he's the one that Scotty is holding in that comedic, like, oh, my boy. Oh.
Oh, is that the one where he's on the table afterwards and he's like, is the order given, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awful.
Yeah. But sounds. Star Trek. They both have great scores.
Yeah, nice.
They both have great scores. I was
Very
annoyed
sparse.
by, like I talked about, the lack of score in a lot of places that I felt needed it in Star Trek.
Yeah. I agree.
Because there's a lot of dead air and a lot of uneven ADR, which was hella distracting. And uneven, like it's synced up with the mouth, but uneven in terms of like the levels. So in the same conversation, the levels in their mic would change like 3 times because they were just ADRing random chunks of the dialogue.
Yeah, I'd say both these movies suffer from levels that were far from perfect, in my opinion. Where like it just seemed like all the effects were put on louder than people talking in both movies, I would say.
Yeah.
Star Trek a bit better, I think.
I didn't notice it as much in Star Trek because there was just so much fucking noise happening all the time.
Right.
That it just became like, it was just all kind of blended together. But because there's so much downtime in Star Trek, everything was just way more obvious.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think visually there was some stuff in Star Trek, some of the shots of like the nebula and like as they approached, there was one shot where they were approaching Regulus, or the space research lab.
Right.
And they had like orange and blues in the background of like and some of those, although it was, a model flying up to another model, some of the colors and stuff in the backdrops I thought were really nice.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Turned pretty well.
But yeah, I mean, sound is always a tricky one. Like, I don't know what else. Like, they both have kind of nice scores. I would probably favor Clones' score. I think it's.
Well, we'll find out.
Thanks for reminding me, Jack, that we're on the sound category.
Citizen Kane of the week is